Hi guys and welcome to my video talking about Haikyuu Season 3 Episode 6. And first up, I'm really sorry that this is late, but I haven't been home, so yeah, and I can't really carry this camera with me or my setup, so really sorry about that. Hope it won't happen again. But let's get into the episode. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm gonna keep it short, I think, because yeah. I really like the focus that we had on the third years and kind of their journey to where they are right now, because it's rare that we get moments with the third years because they're always there but not really, we don't get the focus on them, but they're always there in the background, and we have some few moments with them, but it's always other characters who get to shine a lot. Like in this season it's been mostly Tsukishima, and usually it's Kageyama and Hinata, and last season we had a lot of Yamaguchi, and we've had some Nishinoya and Asahi. Of course Asahi's third year, but we don't get a lot of all of the third years, and we don't get a lot of Daichi generally, so it was really nice to see this. It was done a little different in the manga, but I liked how they kind of incorporated it in here, and I like to see, I just like to see it in anime form, because they were there when Karasuno really had gone from being a powerhouse to being not a powerhouse and just being really weak, where they were in decline, because at the time where Hinata and them joined, they had been kind of forgotten for not for a long time, but they were further from their prime, and they weren't a weak school at that point. They were just like a mediocre school, because they had Asahi and they had Nishinoya at that point, so they weren't as bad off as they were when it was just the current third years who joined. And I just liked seeing their determination, because it just shows that they worked really, really hard to get where they are now, and if it weren't for them, the groundwork wouldn't have been there, and they would not have been able to stand on this stage, because the fact that Asahi and Daichi and Suga are there is why they are have come so far. Especially Daichi, I think. I feel like Daichi, he really pulls the team along. I mean, he is the captain, and he just has a lot of very captain-y qualities about him, which is of course why Inoshita is very not scared, but he's kind of intimidating of taking on this captain role, because of course Daichi is like the perfect captain. He just does everything right, and he just has that aura around him. But I just really liked it. We also had, as I kind of talked about last time, that finally in this episode we have Kageyama finally not being able to play anymore, but he's like losing stamina the fastest, because he's the one who handles the balls the most, and it's just not good because he is their main star. Of course they have Suga, who of course is kind of preparing to take over for Kageyama, but Kageyama is of course very stubborn, and until he literally drops, he will keep playing. But we will see Suga play, and he does some really cool stuff later on. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I really like seeing like Kageyama's determination, and I really like the moment where he kind of screwed up in his set to Tsukishima, and he had that kind of look of terror on his face, and then Tsukishima saved it, and it was kind of all okay. But I really liked it because Tsukishima is the one who still calls him king. So unlike with Hinata, where he's like almost certain that even if he screws up, Hinata will go forward, Tsukishima and him, they have really bad relationships, so the fact that Tsukishima really went for it and got that point, that was really important and good for like both of their characters and just their character dynamics, because as I said, they have really shit relationship. But I really like that scene, and of course Hinata did the same later on, but it was really nice to see. And just seeing like Hinata and Tsukishima's kind of rivalry was also really nice, because even though Tsukishima's like, no, I'm not competing with him, he kind of is in his own little weird way, because they are both middle bloggers, and now more than ever Tsukishima doesn't want to lose, and losing to Hinata is something he doesn't want to either, so yeah. On the topic of Tsukishima, I was slightly disappointed with this episode, and to understand why I was slightly disappointed with this episode, you need to understand why Tsukishima is my favorite character, and why I love this moment more in the manga than I do in the anime, because I feel like the anime did not make as much of a deal of it as it was in the manga. Like, it was just kind of a one-off. And what I'm talking about is when Tsukishima does his personal time difference attack. And the reason that you need to understand why I'm a little disappointed in this anime is as I said, Tsukishima is my favorite character, and the thing that I like about Tsukishima is that he's intelligent, that he plays with his brains rather than with instinct and intuition and all that stuff. Like, he's very different from the other players who rely on talent, skill, various other stuff. Because Tsuki has never had that drive for volleyball, so he has to rely on something else when he needs to play on that same stage. And yes, he has height, but height isn't enough if you can't use that height, which Tsukishima kind of can. He's still not quite there yet, but he kind of can. So what he does mostly is use his brain, which we see perfectly in episode 4, because that was like the perfect play. But what we need to understand is that after that, Tsuki doesn't stop thinking. And this is I'm gonna explain this as best as I can, but basically the personal time difference attack is an attack that is very hard to use a lot because it can easily be dealt with the read block. We know this from one of the first episodes where Tsuki blocked, I think it was Tendo, who also did the personal time difference block, and he had that brilliant line of, hey, I'm the normal guy, because he's like, yeah, a wild beast, aka Hinata, will fall for these kinds of things, but I won't because I'm a read blocker. And if you know that a person has this attack in their arsenal, and you know generally what kind of player Tsukishima is, you can easily deal with that by doing read blocking, which of course isn't what Tendo does, but I imagine that he either could do it because it could be part of gas block, and the other players might do read blocking as well. So what's brilliant about what Tsukishima does here is that he's had this move in his like he's been able to do this ever since they entered the preliminaries for the spring tournament, and he's waited this long to use it because in the worst case scenario he can only use this move once, because once he's used it, people will know that he can do it and they can deal with it. But as long as they don't know he can do it, he has like one certain point he can score. So what Tsukishima did is that he basically waited for a moment where he needed to score, where Karasuno really, really needed a point. And as was kind of played and stressed by Ukai, is that they were in a juice at this point, and it was really important for either of the teams to score 2 points in a row, because that would break the momentum and that would give them a better chance of winning. Because if it just go back and forth, the first person to score consecutively will have the upper hand. So Tsukishima waited until there was a moment where they really needed that point, and where scoring that second point would really boost their morale and would lower the morale of Shiro Torisawa. And of course this was the 4th set, where Shiro Torisawa had won 2 sets and Karasuno had only won 1. So should Shiro Torisawa win this set, they would lose the match, and Karasuno would lose the match. So it was really important for Tsukishima to use this at this moment. Now, do you understand why I like this moment a lot? Because in the anime it kind of went by quite fast. Like, Tsukishima was like, Kageyama, can you do this thing? I practiced it with Akashi, then you had Kageyama being slightly jealous, and then they kind of did it. And then you had a few comments, but they didn't explain why this was so important and why what Tsukishima did was so ingenious, because it really was, because Tsuki hasn't stopped thinking. He's been calculating all this time. And that is why that is one of my favorite moments of this series. But it didn't really... The anime did not do it justice, I'm just gonna put it out there. They did a really good job with the Tsuki moment in episode 4. Like, they did that better in the anime than in the manga, but this moment not so much. So I am hoping that this will be the only like disappointment I have, because this season has just been phenomenal, and it has really exceeded all my expectations so far. But I hope you understand why I'm a little salty about that moment, because if you're an anime only, you would not have gotten why exactly that was so brilliant. And yes, it looked cool and was a new attack, and we had that brilliant line from Tsukishima being like, Hinata, you weren't the only one to learn something new, but it wasn't just that, because they set it up as just being Tsukishima competing with Hinata, when in reality it had been Tsukishima thinking all along when to best use this move in all of the 5 sets. So, I feel like I have been talking a lot. As I said, I do want to keep this short, and I know I skipped a few moments with Hinata and stuff like that, but if you want to talk about that, you can leave them in the comments below. So I'm just gonna stop this video now, and if you liked anything that I had to say, please leave a thumbs up on the video. As I said, leave in the comments below what your thoughts on this episode were, and if you want to see more of me, you can subscribe. Until next time, bye!